Hello and welcome to another walkthrough. Today we are finishing off the series from PixiMaths. Really fantastic papers so far, and I'm sure this one won't let us down at all. This is the higher paper 2B version that was written by them. Really strong. I really enjoyed doing the 2As. This is their 2B paper. So there's going to be a link in the description to PixiMaths. Really great revision website. I'm a big fan of theirs. So we'll kick off with question 1. Okay, so question 1. Write 7,357 correct 3 significant figures. So to 3 significant figures, let me turn my pen on. We'll go. This one's going to be the 3rd significant figure, and the number behind it is a 7, so it's greater than 5, so we would round that up to 7,360. So part B, work out showing all the figures on your calculator display. So we'll bring our calculator in. So I'm using the 83 emulator. I've upgraded from previous videos where I used the FX82E version. So I've upgraded that to the class whiz. There'll be a link in the description to this where you can get a copy, where you can get hold of one of these, or the more modern version. But part B, then work out. So fraction button, square root 17 plus 4 squared. I'm just going to type it in exactly as it appears, divided by 7.3 squared. So I tend to just write these straight into my calculator to save me having to write anything else down. So we're looking at 0.1, so let's give myself the full space. So 0.1077981356. Let's make that 3 a little bit clearer. And part Okay, question 2. Rob has been asked to divide 120 in the ratio 3 to 5. Here is his working. 120 divided by 3 is equal to 30. 120 divided by 5 is equal to 24. Rob's working is not correct. Describe what Rob should have done wrong. So it's the dividing by 3 and dividing by 5. So describe what Rob has done wrong. He should have divided by 8. I'll put in brackets, that's 3 plus 5. And then times by 3 and 5. So part B, Peter has to subtract x squared minus 2x minus 4 from x squared plus 3x plus 5. Here is his working. Okay, explain what is wrong with Peter's working. So let's look at this. So his mistake is this part. That and that should be a plus 2x and a plus 4. Explain what. He has not multiplied minus 2x and minus 4 by minus 1. Okay, question 3. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. So we're saying this is a centimetre grid. On the centimetre grid, draw the side elevation of the solid prism from the direction shown at the arrow below. So this is I'm going to see 2 rectangles in effect. The first rectangle is going to be 2 by 5. So let me just grab my ruler, make it a bit neater. Two, 4, 5. So I'm going to assume this is centimetre grid. So that's going to be the first rectangle I see. and then above it, that's a very straight line, and then above it I'm going to have another 3 by 5. So that's going to be my shape. Okay, question 4 then. Simon went on a cycle ride. He left home at 2 p.m. The graph represents part of Simon's cycle ride. So distance from home, and we've got time. At 3 p.m., Simon stopped for a rest. How many minutes did he rest for? So he stopped here, and then he started again here. So he rested for 30 minutes. How far is Simon from his home at 5 p.m.? So at 5 p.m., we go across and we read he's 20 kilometers from home. 20 kilometers. I should include my minutes. At 5 p.m., Simon stopped. At 5 p.m., Simon cycle stopped for 30 minutes. He then cycled home at steady speed. It took him an hour and 30 minutes to get home. Complete the time graph. So we're going to stop for 30 minutes. And then if it takes him an hour and a half to get home, and we're starting off at 5:30, he's going to get home at 7. So that's going to be my completed time graph. Just double checking the bits. Okay. Okay then, question 5. Emily buys a packet of 12 bottles of water. The pack costs £5.67. Emily sells each of the 12 bottles for 50 pence each. Work out Emily's percentage profit. So I'm going to go for doing it this way. I'm going to say that £5.64 divided by 12 is going to be the amount of money she makes on each bottle. So, wrong calculator. So I'm going to do 5.64 divided by 12 gives me the price for each of her bottles is going to be £0.47, which is going to be 47 pence. So it costs her 47 pence, so she makes 3 pence on each bottle. So 3 divided by the original amount times by 100, and that's going to give us 6%. No, I've divided by the wrong denominator. So divided by 47. I do apologise. So 3 divided by 47 times by 100 gives me 6.3829 ... So to one decimal place, that's where I figured the 6 must be wrong. Looked again, 6.4%. The percentage symbol we have. Okay, question 6. Mary's playing a game of throwing a ball at a target. The table shows information about the probability of each of the possible outcomes. Blah, 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 blah. Mary is 3 times as likely to score 2 points as to score 1 point. So that's already shown. X and 3x. Find the value of x. So all of these need to add up to 1. So 4x plus 0.09 plus 0.16 plus 0.21 plus 0.3 gives me a total of 0.76, and that's got to be equal to 1. So 4x has got to be equal to 1 minus that. So that's 0.36, I think. 0.24, sorry. 0.24. So divide both sides by 4 gives us 0.06. Okay, Mary plays the game twice. Work out the probability of Mary scoring a total of 8. So I'm going to assume that we're adding these together. So that's going to be the probability of her doing nothing can be added to 0 to make 8. Nothing can be added to 1 to make 8. We could have had a 2 and a 6, so the probability of a 2 and then a 6. Plus the probability of having a 3. Can we make that? We can't. Plus, so we can't do a 3 and another number because we don't have a 5. So the only other way she can make an 8 is a probability of scoring a 4 and a 4. And then the only other way she can make it is by rolling a 6 and a 2, which would be different to rolling a 2 and a 6. Okay, so in effect then, let's replace some of these with numbers. So that would be 0.18. So we're looking at 0.18. So I'm just going to actually replace this with the 2 times by 0.18 times by probability of rolling a 6 is 0.3 plus the probability of rolling a 4, 0.21 squared, because we're timesing it by itself. So 2 times by 0.18 times 0.3 plus 0.21 squared gives me a value of 0.15. Gives me 0.1521. Let's just double check everything here. Okay, here we go. So I've made a silly mistake up here. So 3 lots of 0.06 is not 1.8, it's 0.0.15. So I think that's actually right. So I'm going to go with that. So I'm going with, as my answer, 0.1521. So 0.1521. Okay, question 7. Identical pairs of books are sold in London, Geneva and Paris. Boots. These boots have a price of, and we're given the prices. The exchange rates are the boots the best value for money in London, Geneva or Paris? So to do this, I need to convert them all into the same unit, really. I'm going to stick with pounds. It doesn't say that we've got to do it one particular way, but I'm going to stick with pounds for each one. So we already know the price in London, so I wanted to convert the the Geneva price, Geneva. So to convert Swiss francs into pounds, I would need to divide by the exchange rate of 1.39. So it's going to be 189 divided by 1.39. So it's going to be £135.97 in G. And then in Paris, it's going to be 174, and we've got euros, so I'm dividing by 1.27. So 174 divided by 1.27 gives me a value of, so I missed my 7 out. Start again. 174 divided by 1.27 gives me a value of, that's more like it, £137.0078 ... So I'm going to go £137.01. So London is cheapest. And of course, for that one, you could have gone for any unit. So I went for pounds, but you could have converted them all into Swiss francs or into euros. You'd get different figures, but you would still have the same conclusion. Okay, question 8. Okay, each group in a school raises money for charity. The completed table and pie chart shows some information about this. Complete the table. So, okay, so we've got a total of 900 people. So in a pie chart, then we would be looking at it being 900 divided by 360. So 900 divided by 360 will give us the gives us 2.5. So each angle is worth 2.5. So 100 times by 2.5 will give us 250. So year 7 should be 250 pounds, and then these 5 figures should add up to 900. So if I add them up so far, so let's just times that by 100. There we go. Plus 225 plus 125 plus 162.5. So I'm looking at doing 900 minus 762.5. So 900 minus my answer gives us £137.50. So that should be my final figure, 137.50. Question 9. Here is a right angle triangle. Work out the value of x. So we're using Pythagoras to find the shortest side. So x is going to be equal to the square root of the hypotenuse, 8.5 squared, minus the shortest side squared. So that's going to give me my value. I'm going to type it in like that. Square root of, no, not cube root. Square root of 8.5 squared minus 4 squared. And that gives me 77.5. Okay, question 10. Here are the ingredients to make 8 shortbread biscuits. Tariq is going to make some shortbread biscuits. He has the following ingredients. Work out the greatest number of shortbread biscuits that Tariq can make with these ingredients. You must show how you got your working. So I'm going to stick with my batches for this. So I'm going to say that this is the recipe to make 8 batches. How many batches of that recipe can I make? If I look at butter first of all. So butter he's got 330 grams and each batch requires 120. So 330 divided by 120 gives me 2.75 batches making butter. If I do the same for caster sugar, so caster sugar, I've got 200 grams. Each batch requires 60 grams. So 200 divided by 60 gives me 3 1/3 batches. So I can't make 3 1/3 because I've only got enough butter for 2.75. But we'll look at flour as well to see whether the butter is the deciding factor. So 450 divided by 180 gives me 450 divided by 180, 2.5 batches. So actually that's the deciding factor. We've only got enough flour for 2.5 batches. So the number of biscuits that they can make is 8 times by 2.5. So 16, 20. So 20. So 20 and flour is our limiting factor. Okay, question 11. So the Singh family and the Peterson family go to the cinema. The Singh family buy 2 adult tickets and 3 children tickets. They pay £28.20 for the tickets. The Peterson family buy 3 adult tickets and 5 children's tickets. They pay £44.75 for the tickets. Find the cost of each adult ticket and each child ticket. So this is asking us to form simultaneous equations. I'm going to say A is going to stand for adult and C is going to stand for child. So 2A plus 3C is going to be equal to £28.20. And for the Peterson family, we've got 3A plus 5C is going to be equal to £44.75. I'm going to call this equation 1 and this equation 2. And I either make my A coefficients the same size, which would be the lowest common multiple of 2 and 3, which would be 6, or my C coefficients the same, lowest common multiple of 3 and 5 would be 15. So I'm going to go for making my A coefficients the same size. So I'm going to take equation 1 and I'm going to multiply it by 3, which will give me 6A plus 9C is going to be equal to £28.20 times by 3, £84.60. And then for the Peterson family, I'm going to times their equation by 2 to get 6A plus 10C is going to be equal to 44.75 times by 2, £89.50. So I'll call that equation 3 and that equation 4. So now that I've got my 6 A's on both equation 3 and 4, I'm going to subtract one from the other. Because I've got 10C here and 9C here, I'm going to do equation 4, take away equation 3. So 6A take away 6A is 0. 10C take away 9C is C. And then £89.50 take away £84.60. Is going to give me £4.90 for a chance ticket. Right, I'm going to sub my value for C into one of my initial equations. So I'm going to sub C into equation 1. Doesn't really matter which one. So 2A plus 3 lots of 490. So that's going to be £14.70. Has to be equal to £28.20. So 2A is going to be equal to £28.20 minus the answer I just worked out, £13.50. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2 now to find the cost of an adult's ticket as £6.75. Right, now that I've got my value for A and my value for C, 5 marks available for this question. So I'm going to do a real quick check. It's not needed, but it's always a good idea to just give yourself a bit of confidence. 5 marks, brill. So 3 lots of A would become 3 times by that. So times by 3. So £20.25 plus 5 lots of C. So 4.9 times by 5 gives me £24.50, and then they add up to £44.75. What should they add up to? £44.75. So I know that I've got all marks correct for that. I'll put them as an answer line. So A is equal to £6.75 and C is equal to £4.90. Just double check that's what it asked us to find. Find the cost of each adult ticket and each child ticket. There we go. Okay, prove that the reoccurring decimal 0.43 has the value 13/30. So to do this, lots of people have slightly different methods. It all follows the same principle though. I start by calling my reoccurring decimal x. and I'm actually going to write it to, I'm going to put my reoccurring symbol over, no, actually that's fine. No, I'm not. I'm going to put my reoccurring over the second 3. Because I've got a single digit repeating, I'm going to say that 10x is equal to 4.33 reoccurring. And then I'm going to say that 9x is going to be one value, subtract the other. So let's go 4. Quick calculator skill, not that you ever need to worry about it overly. It's not an overly useful one. So I'm going to do 4.33 reoccurring. So I put the 3 in the wrong place. So that function allows you to put the reoccurring symbol into your calculator. I don't know whether that's actually shown. So let's try that again. Shift, that button, and then a 3 in there. And from that, I want to subtract 0.04. Okay, it's not going to let me do that. Right. So that's 10x, and from that I want to subtract 0.43. So when I do that, I get let's do it as a decimal, 3.9. So x is going to be equal to 3.9 over 9, which is going to be equal to 39 over 90, which is going to be equal to 13 out of 30. There we go. Which is what we were asked to show in the question. So expand and simplify. I'm going to multiply these. I tend to use the construction line method for this. So y times by y would be y squared. Y times by minus 5 would be minus 5y. Minus 2 times y would be minus 2y. And then minus 2 times by minus 10, minus 5 would give me plus 10. So when I simplify that by collecting the middle terms, I would get y squared minus 7y plus 10. Right, part B, prove algebraically that 2n plus 1 squared minus 2n plus 1 is an even number. Okay, so if I start by squaring that, so when I square that, I would get 4n squared, twice the product, so plus 4n plus 1. And from that, I want to subtract 2n, and I'm going to minus 1 there. So they will cancel. So I'm going to end up with 4n squared plus 2n, which is going to be 2 lots of 2n squared plus n. So, and I'm going to say 2 times any number actually, instead of any number, I'm going to say any integer. I'm going to go even further and say any positive integer. Will be even. Okay, question 14. Shirley wants to find an estimate for the number of bees in her hive. On Monday, she catches 90 bees. She puts a mark on each of them and returns them to the hive. On Tuesday, she catches 120 bees. She finds 20 of these bees have marks. Work out an estimate for the total number of bees in her hive. This is a capture recapture question. I tend to always do, just because it works out easier, I start with saying out of the whole population, which I'm going to call n for now, she caught 90, and that's going to be equal to the fraction, this second fraction, no, wrong way around, the total that she caught that had marks on them. Now, most people would set that up with the fractions the other way around. That's okay. It just means an extra step in terms of your solving. So n is going to be 120 divided by 20 times by 90. Still works through exactly the same way, because if n over 90 is equal to 120 over 20, then it's also true that 20 over n would be equal to 20 over 120. So we'll go to our calculator, although what do we expect it to be? That's going to be 6, and 90 times by 6, so 540. Right, 120 over 20 times by 90, 540. So that's our estimate for total number of bees. Shirley assumes that none of the markers have rubbed off between Monday and Tuesday. If Shirley's assumption is wrong, explain what effect this would happen on your answer to part A. So if some of the markers would have rubbed off, then there would be more bees in the hive. So my answer to part A would be higher. And I've actually gone the wrong way on this. So if I think about it again, so let's say 10 of them had rubbed off, because it doesn't really matter. So I'd be dividing by 10 this time. So 120 divided by 10. No, sorry, if some of them... Right, so we're assuming that we still caught 20 with marks on, but there would have been more. Some of the ones that we caught, I've got this the wrong way around, so my answer would actually be smaller. So if some of the tags had fallen off, so if some of the tags had fallen off, let's say 2 tags had fallen off, but I still caught 20, then it would actually mean that there would be less bees in the hive. So if some tags, if some marks rubbed off, my answer to part A would be an overestimate. Think about that correctly. So in effect, the proportion, if we still caught 20, yeah. Okay, question 15. Kira uses her calculator to work out the value of a number x. She wrote down the first 2 digits of the answer on her calculator. She wrote 7.3. Write down the error interval. Okay, so this is a bit like truncating. So her number could have been, so if we think about it, if you think about your calculator display, so it's got to be starting with 7.3 and then any digit. Let me just read that right. Kira uses her calculator to work out the value for a number x. She wrote down the first 2 digits on answer on her calculator. She wrote down 7.3. Write down the error interval. So the smallest that the number could possibly be is 7.3. My value for x has got to be greater than that. Greater than or equal to that, but it's got to be less than 7.4. That's a nice question. It's a kind of a roundabout way of saying truncating the number. Okay, question 16. So AOB is the sector of a circle with centre O and radius 7. The area of the sector is 40 centimeters squared. Calculate the perimeter of the sector. Give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, so we first of all need to work out this interior angle, which I'm going to call theta. So in effect, the area of a sector is equal to area S. Area of the sector is going to be equal to the size of the angle divided by 360 times by pi r squared. So in this case, 40 is going to be equal to theta divided by 360 times by pi times by the radius squared, so times by 7 squared. So in effect, if we rearrange this in kind of one step, I'm going to say that theta is going to be equal to 40 times by 360 divided by 49 pi. I'm going to leave it like that for now, just because I'm going to avoid going into decimals. So the perimeter of the sector, let's do it this way first of all. So the arc length is going to be equal to theta divided by 360 times by 2 pi r. So that's going to be equal to theta divided by 360 times by 14 pi. And if you think, should we do it? Quite a lot of this is going to simplify down, so I'll do it like this. So the size of my angle then is going to be equal to 40 times by 360 over divided by 49 times by pi. So that's going to equal that. But hopefully, I think that this will actually end up tidying itself back up. So on a non-calculator paper, I'm sure that we could have done that. Yeah, there we go. So 80 over 70, which does work, because 40 divided by 360 would cancel. Actually, 360 divided by 360 would cancel each other out. The pi's would cancel each other out, and then we've got 2 times 80 divided by 14, which would cancel with the 49. So that's 80 over 70 for the arc length. 80 over 7 for the arc length, sorry. So the perimeter is going to be equal to the arc length plus 14. Plus 14 because we've got to add on the arms of the angle. So if I add 14 to that gives me that value. If I convert that into being a mixed fraction, that's going to be 25 and 3/7. What form did it ask us for? To 3 significant figures. So let's go decimal. 25.42857 ... So to 3 significant figures, that's going to be 25.4. Okay, question 17. Let's have a look at this. Shape P is reflected in the line x is equal to -1 to give shape Q. Shape Q is reflected in the line y is equal to 0 to give the shape R. Describe fully the single transformation that maps P onto R. So that's going to be so we can do this straight away if you're happy to. So that's going to be a rotation of 180 degrees about the point. If we think about where the two lines would intersect, they would intersect at -1, 0. There's nothing wrong with jumping straight to that. If you wanted to do it by showing the two transformations, that's absolutely fine too. Reflected in the line x is equal to -1, so the line x is equal to -1 would be that line there. So if we reflect it in that shape, and then reflect it in the line y is equal to 0 is going to be this line here. And we can see that that's a 180 degree rotation about the point -1, 0. Okay, question 18 then. It would take 120 minutes to fill a swimming pool using water from 5 taps. How many minutes will it take to fill the pool if only 3 taps are being used? So in effect, we've got inversely proportional problem here. I tend to kind of use a bit of a shortcut for this though. So if it takes 5 taps, then the amount of units is going to be 120 times by 5. We're doing it using 3 taps, so divide by 3. And that will give us our time in minutes. So so let's go fraction button, fraction 120 times by 5. So it's going to take 200 minutes. State one assumption you made when working out your answer to part A, that all taps fill at the same rate. Same rate. Okay, simplify fully. So, I don't think we need a calculator for this. Simplify fully, we're going to have 3 to the power 4 times by x to the power, we multiply them 20 times by y to the power times them 24. So I'm going to use my calculator for the first part though. What is it? 9 times 9, it should be 81. So we're looking at 81 x to the power 20, y to the power 24. Second part, expand and simplify. So when I'm having to expand a triple bracket, I will always expand my double bracket first of all. So if I expand the double bracket, I will always expand I will save the easiest bracket to do with my final step. So if I multiply this out, then I'm going to get x squared plus 4 minus 3, so that would be plus x, and then I'd have a minus 12. And I still need to multiply that by x plus 2. I set this out a bit differently. That's just my personal preference. When I multiply this out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of line things up. So x times by x squared is going to be x cubed. X times by x is going to be x squared. Sorry, x cubed. Let's make sure we've got that written properly. And then x times by minus 12 is going to be minus 12x. Then I'm going to do this as a second line where I'm times in by 2. So I'm timesing each of these by 2, and I'm going to line them up by powers. So 2 times x squared would be 2x squared. And then 2 times by x would give me 2x. And then 2 times by minus 12 would give me minus 24. And then I'm adding these two together. So that would give me x cubed plus 3x squared minus 10x minus 24. There are other ways you can do that. Multiplying it out using a grid is absolutely fine. Very acceptable way of doing it. So x squared plus x cubed plus 3x squared minus 10x minus 24. Okay, question 20. The diagram shows a rectangle ABDE and 2 congruent triangles AFE and BCD. The area of the rectangle is equal to the area of the rectangle is equal to the area of AFE plus the area of BCD. A to B and A to E is in the ratio of 1 to 2. Work out the length of AE. Okay. So I'm just planning this. So this isn't a right angle triangle, and this is the length that I'm trying to find out really. So the information of this being 1 to 3 would mean that this would be x over 3. Not sure how I feel about that. I could call that x and that 3x. That would be absolutely fine as well. But as it's x I'm trying to find out, I'm going to try it this way. So I'm going to say that the area of one of these triangles is going to be a half AB sine C. Sine C is sine of 30 is a half. So let's just look at that for a second. So actually, I'm doing 3 or 4 steps in my head at the same time. I want the area of this, which is going to be 2 lots of it. So the area of both triangles is, instead of a half, it would just be AB sine C. So 24 times by x times by a half. So it would be 12x would be the total area of the 2 triangles. And the area of the rectangle is going to be equal to x. So the area of the rectangle is going to be equal to x times by x over 3. So that would be equal to x squared over 3. And those areas have to be equal. So x squared over 3 is equal to 12x. So multiplying by 3, x squared is equal to 36x. So if I could in theory, x has got to be a positive length, so I can divide by x on both sides. So x is equal to 36. That would be acceptable in this question because we're only dealing with a positive length. Alternatively, what I probably should have done, just to be more correct, is to say that x squared minus 36x is equal to 0. So x is times by x minus 36 is equal to 0. So x is either equal to 0 or x is equal to 36. That would technically be more of an A-level solution, but because we don't need to deal with a negative or a 0 value for x, we can do that. That's absolutely fine. So x is going to be equal to 36. And technically speaking, I introduced x, so we just have to find the value, so 36. Very nice question. Okay, 21. Here is a sketch of a vertical cross-section through the centre of a bowl. The cross-section is the shaded region between the curve and the x-axis. The curve has the equation y is equal to x squared over 3 minus 3x, where x and y are both measured in centimetres. Find the depth of the bowl. Okay. So for this, in effect, what I want to do is I want to find the minimum point. You find the minimum point by completing the square. It's a nasty one to complete the square of, though. Right, so I'm going to start by taking out a factor of 1/10. And that's going to be x squared minus 30x. That's not too bad, provided you can spot that first step. Right, so if I complete the square of that, so 1 over 10, I'm going to put that into a square bracket just because I'm going to have a second bracket there. So I'm going to have x minus half of this, which would be 15, all squared, and from that I'd need to subtract 115 squared, 225. Right, so if we tidy this up slightly, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say that this is x minus 15 all squared over 10 minus this divided by 10 would be 22.5. So the very minimum this could be is when x is 15. So when x is 15, this would create 0. So whenever because we're squaring it, this value will always be positive or 0. To make it 0, x would need to be equal to 15. So the turning point is going to be at the coordinate 15, and then when that's 0, that would be minus 22.5. So that would be the turning point, or the minimum value. So just assuming all measurements are in centimetres, so the depth of the bowl would be 22.5. Again, nice question. And question 22, on the grid, draw the graph of y is equal to x squared plus y squared is equal to 4. So the equation of a circle with centre 0 is equal to r squared. So the radius of this circle is going to be equal to 2, and the centre of the circle is going to be at 0, 0. I want to draw a nice circle going through these points, which I can't really do in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip it just into my snipping tool, because I can do a nice circle on there. So let's take that off and bring my protractor in. So I want my smaller, so on the center. You do this with your compass. You normally can get away with freehand, but I find it a bit lazy if you draw it freehand, for the simple fact it won't let me go any smaller than that, will it? Let me just snip that again and make it a little bit bigger before I do the cut. Yeah, that'll do fine to get a feel for what I'm trying to do. Okay, so I've got it working a bit better now. So center of protractor goes on the center of angle, or compass. Set your compass arms to 2, and then it's just a full circle all the way around, making sure it passes through all the. That's what you're really after. Diagram that looks like that. So full circle passing through 0, 0, 2, minus 2, 0, minus 2. Let's try that again. 2, 0, minus 0, minus 2, minus 2, 0, and 0, 2. So we'll draw it freehand as well, just to kind of get an idea. So on a computer screen, I'm not very good at drawing a circle. That should be a perfect circle, but I've not drawn that very well. In your exam, use your compass. Otherwise your examiner just thinks you're a little bit lazy. Yeah. Okay, part B. On the grid, sketch the graph of y is equal to cos x for the values 0 to 360. If that's just no major difference there. Okay, so cos starts at 0, 1, and then every 90 degrees we kind of have it change the direction. So that's going to be my curve. I don't need to go any further than that. Again, try and draw this as smooth as you can. I'm very bad at drawing this on my laptop. That's basically our curve. It should be a bit smoother, but that's the general properties. Okay, and question 23 is a regular heptagon, so 7-sided. The area of the triangle ABG is 30 centimeters squared. Calculate the length of GB. Calculate the length of GB. Given your answer correct to 3 significant figures, you must show all your working. Okay, so I can work out this angle here. That's fairly straightforward. We'll come back to that in a second though. I want to work out this angle here as my endpoint. To do that, I'm going to use, I know that the area is 30 centimeters squared. I'm going to call this length y and y. I'm going to use sine the area of a non-right angle triangle for this part to work out y, and once I've done that I can work out x. That will work. Right, so the exterior angle of a regular heptagon will be 360 divided by 7. So the interior angle is going to be equal to 180 minus 360 over 7. So that's going to be equal to 180 minus 360 divided by 7. So that should work out fine. So 900 over 7, or 128.57. I'm going to call it 900 over 7 for now, just to keep no rounding in my question. So I've got the interior angle. I'll call that, let's call it theta for now. Save on to try and fit 907 over there. So the area of a non-right angle triangle is equal to a half AB sine C. So let's just rearrange this a little bit. We want AB. So in this case, y squared is going to be equal to 2 lots of the area, so 2 times 30 divided by the sine of the angle, which we just worked out, but I'm going to write theta there. So y is going to be equal to the square root of that, so y is going to be equal to the square root of 60 over sine of that angle. That's not going to be very nice, I don't think, but let's have a look. So we want the square root of, not the cube root, we want the square root of 60 over sine of that answer that we just had in our calculator. So we make that side 8.760, but I'm going to call it y. Dot, 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 dot. Right. Now, I actually want to work out the length of that line. So x squared is going to be equal to, let's write the actual formula down. So a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Right, so y squared is going to be equal to, no, not y squared, x squared is going to be equal to 2 lots of y squared, 2y squared minus 2y squared cos y, cos, not y, cos of 900 over 7. Right, that's looking quite complicated, but yeah, we'll go with that. So, so I want 2 times by y squared minus 2 lots of y squared times by cos of 900 over 7, and this should be the exact value because I've not rounded at any point. So that doesn't look right though. Let's look at that again. 2bc. Why is so something's gone wrong. Let's have a look if we can spot what. So definitely agree with that. 900 divided by 7. 128.57. I'm happy with that. So there's nothing wrong with going through your answer and just checking that you're happy with bits and pieces. So the area is half AB sine C, which is in this case half y times y, so this could be it. And I've rearranged it by times in by 2, so 2 times by 30, which is the area. I agree with that. Divided by sine of the angle. I agree with that. So let's just see whether that works out. So the square root of a fraction 2 times by 30 was 60, divided by sine of the angle, which was 900 over 7. Okay, we agree with that. Now we're at this point, so a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared, so that would be y squared plus y squared minus 2bc. Y squared plus y squared. 2bc cos of the angle. So that would be 2 lots of y squared. Y squared plus y squared is 2y squared minus 2bc, so 2y times y, so that would be minus 2y squared cos 900 over 7. So I do agree with that. Let's try that again then. So 2 times by that last answer squared minus 2 times that last answer squared times by cos of the angle okay, that looks right. So 249.1825, so it must have been an issue with how I typed it into my calculator. So x is going to be the square root of that, so square root of the answer is 15.78, so 15.7855 ... So to 3 significant figures, we're going to go 15.8. Okay, and that brings us to the end of that paper. Really, really nice paper. A couple of really challenging ones there. I really like that question 23. Some really good topics covered there. That was challenging as well. I would say it was slightly more complicated than the first paper, the set A, but again, fantastic paper. Thank you very much to PixiMaths. Again, check out their website. I'll put a comment in their thread for that. I hope you found that useful. I will put into the chapter titles the topic of each question, and also if there are any mistakes, I'll add those to the chapter titles. I won't re-record the video. The recording of the video has been done in our continuous recording. So to alter a question would mean I need some software I don't have or don't want to use. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you found that useful. Feel free to add any questions, comments, or feedback into the thread or the chat function. And good luck with your upcoming exams.